Picture this. You wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart racing, palms sweating, mind spinning with endless worry about tomorrow's presentation, next week's deals, or that conversation you had months ago. Your chest feels tight, your breathing is shallow, and that familiar knot in your stomach makes you feel like something terrible is about to happen, even though logically you know you're safe in your own bed. You've been living this nightmare for months, maybe years, scrolling through your phone at ungodly hours, desperately searching for answers, for relief, for someone who understands that anxiety isn't just worry. It's a prison that keeps you trapped in your own mind. What if I told you that one simple daily habit you probably don't even realize you're doing is making your anxiety 10 times worse? And more importantly, what if I could show you exactly how to break free from it starting today? If you've been struggling with anxiety and you're tired of feeling like a prisoner in your own mind, you've found the right place. I'm here to share natural, accessible solutions that actually work. Not quick fixes or empty promises, but real strategies that can help you reclaim your peace of mind and transform your relationship with anxiety forever. Make sure to subscribe to our channel because we're building a community of people who refuse to let anxiety control their lives anymore, and I share life-changing tips every single week that you won't find anywhere else. Before we dive in, I want to know where you're watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below, and if you have any questions about anxiety, don't hesitate to ask. I read every single comment, and I'm here to help. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest anxiety-busting strategies. Now, let me ask you something that might shock you. What if the very thing you think is helping your anxiety is actually making it exponentially worse? What if that habit you turn to for comfort, for distraction, for a sense of control is secretly rewiring your brain to be more anxious, more reactive, and more overwhelmed than ever before? The habit I'm talking about is so normalized in our society that most people don't even consider it a problem. It's something you probably do within minutes of waking up and continue doing throughout your day without a second thought. I'm talking about constant digital stimulation and compulsive information consumption. Every time you grab your phone to scroll through social media, check the news, watch random videos, or mindlessly browse the internet, you're flooding your already overstimulated nervous system with more chaos, more comparison, more fear-based content, and more artificial urgency. Your brain, which is already hypervigilant from anxiety, interprets this constant stream of information as threats that need immediate attention. Here's what's happening in your brain when you engage in this habit. Your nervous system can't distinguish between a real emergency and the manufactured urgency of social media notifications, breaking news alerts, or the constant stream of other people's highlight reels. Every ping, every scroll, every click triggers your fight or flight response, releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your brain becomes addicted to this cycle of stimulation and reaction, creating neural pathways that make anxiety your default state rather than peace. The science behind this is both fascinating and terrifying. When you constantly consume information, especially emotionally charged content, your brain's threat detection system goes into overdrive. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive and starts perceiving normal life situations as dangerous. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, becomes overwhelmed and can't function properly. This creates a perfect storm where you're simultaneously overstimulated and unable to process emotions effectively. But here's where it gets even more insidious. The platforms and content creators know exactly
You're not just passively consuming information. You're being actively manipulated into a state of chronic stress and anxiety. Think about it. How do you feel after spending 30 minutes scrolling through social media? Probably more anxious, more scattered, more overwhelmed than when you started. You might have gone to your phone looking for a quick distraction from anxiety, but instead, you've amplified it. You've trained your brain to associate relief with stimulation, when what you actually need is the opposite: calm, quiet, and presence. I know what you're thinking. But I need to stay informed. I need to stay connected. What if something important happens and I miss it? This is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps you trapped in the cycle. The truth is, genuinely important information will reach you without you having to hunt for it constantly. The vast majority of what you're consuming is manufactured urgency designed to capture your attention and keep you in a state of chronic alertness. Let me paint you a picture of what your life could look like without this habit destroying your mental health. Imagine waking up and instead of immediately reaching for your phone, you take 5 deep breaths and set an intention for your day. Imagine having conversations without constantly checking notifications. Imagine going to bed with a calm mind instead of a brain buzzing with random information and other people's problems. Imagine feeling present in your own life instead of constantly comparing yourself to strangers on the internet. I want you to pause for a moment and think about your relationship with digital consumption. When you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, do you reach for your phone? When you have a quiet moment, do you immediately fill it with scrolling? When you wake up or go to bed, is checking your devices one of the first or last things you do? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you're using digital stimulation as an anxiety coping mechanism, but it's actually making your anxiety worse. Here's my challenge for you, and I want you to comment below if you're willing to try this. For the next 7 days, implement what I call anxiety-free zones in your daily routine. These are specific times and spaces where you commit to 0 digital consumption. Start with the first 30 minutes after you wake up and the last hour before you go to bed. During these times, no phones, no tablets, no computers, no television. Instead, use these moments for activities that actually calm your nervous system. Gentle stretching, deep breathing, journaling, reading a physical book, or simply sitting in silence. You might think this sounds impossible or extreme, but remember, your current habit of constant digital consumption is what's extreme. Your nervous system wasn't designed to process the amount of information and stimulation we expose it to daily. Creating these anxiety-free zones isn't depriving yourself. It's giving your brain the rest and recovery it desperately needs to function properly. During your digital detox periods, you might notice that your mind feels restless at first. This is completely normal, and actually a sign that the habit has been masking your anxiety rather than healing it. When you remove the constant distraction, you're finally giving yourself the opportunity to feel what's actually happening in your body and mind. This might feel uncomfortable initially, but this discomfort is where real healing begins. Let me share what happens when you consistently practice digital boundaries. Your nervous system starts to remember what calm feels like. Your brain stops being in constant reactive mode and begins to access its natural problem-solving and creative abilities. You start to notice the difference between real concerns that deserve your attention and manufactured anxiety from information overload. When you're using technology for work, use it purposefully and then step away. For staying connected with loved ones, choose quality over quantity. Have meaningful conversations instead of constant superficial check-ins. Schedule actual phone calls or in-person visits instead of relying solely on text-based communication. The key is to shift from reactive consumption to intentional engagement. Before you pick up your phone or open an app, pause and ask yourself, what am I hoping to achieve right now? How do I want to feel afterward? Is this action moving me toward calm and presence or toward anxiety and overwhelm? This simple pause can completely transform your relationship with technology and, consequently, your anxiety levels. Here's something else that's crucial to understand. When you're constantly consuming other people's content, opinions, and experiences, you're essentially living in other people's reality instead of your own. You're training your brain to be externally focused rather than internally aware.
This external focus is a major contributor to anxiety because you're constantly comparing, judging, and reacting to things that have nothing to do with your actual life and circumstances. True peace and confidence come from internal awareness and trust in your own experience. When you create space away from digital noise, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with your own thoughts, feelings, values, and intuition. You start to trust yourself more and rely less on external validation and constant information gathering for security. If you're someone who reaches for your phone when you're feeling anxious, lonely, bored, or uncomfortable, you're using it as an emotional regulation tool. But here's the problem. It's a tool that creates more dysregulation than it solves. Instead of learning to be present with difficult emotions and develop healthy coping mechanisms, you're training yourself to escape and avoid. This keeps you stuck in patterns of anxiety because you never actually address the root causes or develop genuine resilience. Real emotional regulation happens through presence, breath, movement, connection with nature, creative expression, and honest self-reflection. These are the skills that will actually transform your relationship with anxiety long-term. Every time you choose digital distraction over these healing practices, you're choosing short-term escape over long-term freedom. Let me give you some practical alternatives for the times when you would normally reach for your device. When you wake up feeling anxious, instead of scrolling through your phone, try placing one hand on your chest and one on your belly and taking 10 slow, deep breaths. When you're feeling overwhelmed during the day, instead of checking social media, step outside for 5 minutes and notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This grounds you in present moment awareness instead of spiraling into mental chaos. When you're feeling lonely or disconnected, instead of scrolling through other people's lives online, reach out to one real person in your life for an actual conversation. When you're feeling bored or restless, instead of mindless browsing, engage in an activity that requires presence and creativity. Drawing, cooking, gardening, playing music, or taking a walk without your phone. The beautiful thing about breaking this destructive habit is that the benefits compound quickly. Within just a few days of implementing digital boundaries, most people notice improved sleep quality, better focus, reduced comparison and social anxiety, more presence in relationships. Instead of trying to manage anxiety while continuing the habits that created, what if you addressed the root cause? What if you created a lifestyle that naturally supports calm and presence instead of constantly triggering stress responses? This is what real healing looks like, changing the conditions that create the problem rather than just managing the symptoms. I want to acknowledge that making this change isn't always easy, especially if you've been using digital consumption as your primary coping mechanism for a long time. You might feel resistant, bored, anxious, or even panicky when you first start creating boundaries. This is normal and temporary. Your brain is literally addicted to the stimulation, and like any addiction recovery, there's an adjustment period. Be gentle with yourself during this transition. Start small with just 15 or 30-minute digital-free periods and gradually increase them as you feel more comfortable. Have compassion for yourself if you slip back into old patterns. This is a practice, not a perfection contest. The goal is progress, not perfection. What's most important is that you understand the connection between your digital habits and your anxiety levels. Once you see this connection clearly, you can't unsee it. You'll start to notice how different types of content affect your nervous system. You'll become more aware of when you're reaching for your device as an escape versus when you're using technology intentionally. This awareness is the first step toward lasting change. Remember, the goal isn't to live in the Stone Age or reject all modern conveniences. The goal is to use technology as a tool that serves your well-being rather than letting it control and overwhelm you. You can still enjoy social media, stay informed about important news, and use technology for work and connection. The difference is doing it consciously and with clear boundaries, rather than compulsively and reactively. Your anxiety doesn't have to be a life sentence. You have more power over your mental health than you realize, and sometimes the most powerful changes come from what you stop doing rather than what you start doing. By breaking the habit of constant digital stimulation, you're not just improving your anxiety, you're reclaiming your attention, your presence, and your peace of mind. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us reach more people who are struggling with anxiety and looking for real solutions. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because I'm committed to sharing content that actually makes a difference in your mental health journey. Remember, you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. You have everything within you to create a life of calm, confidence, and genuine peace. Start today, start small, but start. Your future self will thank you for taking this brave step toward healing.